Hey Kurt, it's always my favorite time of the week is sitting here talking basketball with you. But first and foremost, I gotta know, how was your weekend? Everything good? How was your week?
Look, weekend was good. I actually was up in Santa Barbara for a few days, dropping my daughter off for college orientation and check it out. By the way, not a lot of college. Her orientation dorm had an ocean view. Like
Oh
that's
my goodness.
that's why you go to Santa Barbara. But it kind of sucked because the one thing I did want to do, I didn't get to go to the Drew League when LeBron showed up to play. Like I would have been there for that if I'd been around in town.
Yeah, you and Draymond sitting courtside. No, and when you say show up to play, I mean it's like what is that? So we're like 40. He dropped 40 points, right?
42, yeah. And the thing is, the Drew League's actually a pretty good level of basketball. Like I've gone a few times. It's good college players, like not guys who are getting drafted necessarily, but like pros show up occasionally. But guys who play overseas, like it's not like a YMCA run. Like these guys can play ball, and LeBron toyed with them, just toyed with them.
Yeah, that's the thing it always blows my mind, when you see like I feel like this is the same in tennis or something. Like, I don't know if you've ever gone to like a tennis court and you play with like a tennis pro and like, you're rallying and you're like, wow, I'm pretty good, right? And then they actually like start playing and you're like, okay, wait a second, everything is aces, you can't do anything. And you're like, I thought I was actually pretty decent at this game, but it turns out the pro was just playing to my level. I feel like there's always like the gaps between pro, between NBA versus Drew League versus overseas versus it's just crazy, crazy distinction.
Tennis is a great one because I've been to the Indian Wells tournament out here, and you can
Oh yeah.
when you go, you can sit in the main court and watch, Federer and Nadal, but you can go sit on and my wife is really into tennis, so we'd go sit on some side court that seats maybe 1,000 people and watch the number 42 player and 72 player in the world, and they're ridiculously good, men and women, like just crushing the ball, spinning it everywhere fast. You're like, it's insane to watch good tennis up close. Like it's all. You're right. It's just a whole different level of like you can do that.
Yeah, so I couldn't imagine because in New York we have all the playgrounds and stuff. It's the same concept. You're like, oh my goodness, you watch Kevin Durant come just show up at a ball, at a playground and just drop whatever 40 points. You're like, yeah, that's right. It's a different league, different league. DeMar DeRozan also balled out.
Yeah, yeah, and he's actually he look. He's born and raised in Compton. Went to Compton High. That's not far from there. He shows up. I don't want to say every year, but he's one of the guys who shows up a lot of years and plays a few days.
They're lucky they didn't have you out there. But I spent my week. I know you're dying to know. Basically, I spent my weekend just looking at art and eating pizza. So it was.
That's about the most New York thing ever, though. That's kind of awesome.
I was like, I'm gonna go to the Met and eat some pepperoni pizza. Call it a day. Yeah, it was pretty sweet. But now for PBT Extra, one of the things I've been ruminating on while I had pizza in the hand, you should have saw me, Kurt. I was there at the Met looking at a Van Gogh, right? And I'm looking at like.
Let's get just pure pepperoni, or do you throw other stuff on there? And how do you feel about pineapple?
I'm cool with pineapple. I mean, I'm cool with that. I think for most part, I go cheese. And then what I do is I learned this when I first moved to New York because I lived right above a pizzeria. And it was amazing, as you can imagine, as fresh. I just graduated college, moved to New York, and there's like down the block, like one street over, pizzeria. And I would get it by the slice. And they're the biggest slice. They're bigger than my face, So I was thinking, man, that's a big slice of pizza. What I would do is I would just get a cheese pizza. I would take it home. And this I'm giving you game right now. And I would put balsamic vinegar and olive oil on it and some salt.
Ooh.
And you would take a $2 slice of pizza and make it gourmet. It would be like $10. It would taste like $10 slice of pizza. So that's what I do here. I just go get a cheese pizza and do the same thing. Just bring it home and then put balsamic and olive oil on it and some salt.
Okay.
Yeah, but while I was eating pizza and while I was looking at Van Gogh at the Met, I was thinking to myself, what does Kurt think about Deandre Ayton? If you can imagine that circuitous run, but it's true. So we know that Ayton got the max deal he was like seeking, which was amazing. Quite frankly, I didn't think it was going to be out there. His agents he believed, had a faith that moved mountains. Got it. 4 years, $133 million, Kurt, with the Pacers. It seemed like within moments, the Suns matched it.
Yeah.
Where are you feeling? Do you think this is actually a feasible partnership now?
That's a great question. I like at the press conference, everybody said the right things, didn't they? Like everybody, DeAndre, like I'm born and raised here. You know, I went to college in Arizona. This is where I want to be. We'll see. That was a rocky end to last season. Like it was Monty Morris kind of calling him out after like 17 minutes in the closeout game. Like it wasn't nothing. So I'm curious how that plays out. I think the advantage they have is, Corey, they got Monty Williams, right? If anybody, I feel like if anybody could smooth this situation out, it's Monty Williams. And by the way, I'm with you. I didn't think a max was out there for him. And
Yeah.
hey, that was not. They expected him to match. They didn't put the painful. Like you can put all sorts of poison pills in one of those offers and have money up front or option years. You can make those painful for the team that matches them. They didn't. It was a straight 4.
Yeah, and he can't be traded until January 15th, if I'm not mistaken. And he has he can't be traded without his consent for a year. So these are important things to note as far as just guardrails, like we're bowling with bumpers. But I will say, Kurt, from my perspective, I was it's a mixed bag. Let me tell you why. On one hand, I understand Phoenix's position. They can't not do this. You know, he's a #1 overall draft pick. You're a mid-market team, you know, like you have to get something in return. You can't just let him walk. That would be just bad business, right? So I understand that aspect of it. But then I also think that there's an idea of what does it mean to be a good partner, right? And you know the guy like wanted to be extended like his classmates who were named Trae Young and Luka Doncic. You know his agents are doing their job. They're being vocal with their displeasure. You see Deandre Ayton come back the next year, increase his stats. Yes, the team didn't perform as well as they did before when he was playing, you know, whatever, 16-10, then he went 17-11. So we're talking about marginal increase, but it's an increase in the professional league, right? So hats off to him the way he responded. But it looked like he wanted to be a franchise player. He doesn't want to be, you know, the third guy on the team, because right now it goes Devin Booker, Chris Paul, then DeAndre. And so from my perspective, I'm thinking as a team, why wouldn't you let the guy go do that? Leave some money on the table, allow him be a good partner, let him go, you know, follow his dream, be a franchise player. He's 24, see what happens, and then kind of retool. You can find that 12-10, 16-10 production elsewhere. But I understand their position too. Like they couldn't let him walk.
No, they couldn't let him walk. I was really surprised they just didn't work out. I expected a sign and trade. Once that got announced, but once he signed the offer sheet, it was over. But there was an announcement for a while that he was going to, and I'm like, oh, now you've just forced their hand. But Indiana's been looking to trade Miles Turner all season, like all summer. Miles Turner brings, again, a lot of great shot blocking, can space the floor from 3, like brings a lot of things that Phoenix could use in place of Ayton and pay him a little less. And yeah, he's up in a year and you're going to have to work out a new contract with him. But I was surprised they didn't try to get Turner and a pick or another player in that deal and make something work where everybody was going to be a little happier, because I think Ayton you're right. He's talked about wanting a bigger role, and that's
fine. I think that's great, but it's just not going to happen in Phoenix.
No.
And so that's kind of what I mean. It's just like a hard rock. It's like a rock in a hard place. It's kind of like, okay, well, what's going to give? It's definitely not going to be the Suns, you know? So as a player, to me, you know what it reminded me of, Kurt? It reminded me of Jeremy Grant. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
In New York, where it's like you got Michael Porter Jr., you got Jokic, back-to-back MVP caliber guy, and Jamal Murray. It's like you are the 4th player on that team.
Yep.
Now, you have a choice. Do you want to take less money and try to win a championship and be a role player on a good team, or do you want to be the star on a bad team and get paid more money? He chose to go be a star in Detroit on a bad team. What ended up happening is when you take that chance, which is like every athlete is expected to take that chance because you made your career proving people wrong and betting on yourself, right? You're a gambler. I understand that. So it's in your DNA. You go take that chance. You get paid for a minute. And then what happens? They draft. You know, they draft high. Then it's like, okay, well, now you're not as important to us. And then now he got traded to Portland. So you become a high-paid mercenary, and instead of a role player on a great team with a long career. And that journeyman mercenary role, it's tough, Kurt. It's tough. So I understand. I was like, if Ayton wants to go try to roll the dice and go for it, but, you know, in Phoenix, he's going to be a role player.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Ayton, I still think, let's put it this way. I'd be surprised if he ends that contract with the Suns. I still think he eventually gets traded. But like we said, he can't be traded without his consent for a year. And my guess is, look, that was like 64-win team. Like they had the best record.
Really good.
They're gonna run it back and see how it goes. But my guess is, in a couple of years, I wouldn't be shocked if they shook this whole thing up. And by the way, Rob, one thing to watch, that put them in the tax, by the way, right? Like there's now almost $17 million into the tax. How's Robert Sarver going to handle that? Is he going to? He hasn't paid it since 2010. Is he going to pay it like every owner says they will to have a contender? Let's just say I'm watching that.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah, I'm not going to bring in the Premier League here, but yes, exactly. It seems like, if you want to win, you're going to have to dip into the luxury tax a little bit. It seems like that. But what's interesting is another thing I just want to give my hats off to the Suns, because I think what they're doing from a basketball standpoint is very smart. So you look at this, they don't extend Ayton. They end up saving what, ostensibly 60, 70, 80 million dollars. It's the same guy, the same deal. Instead of having to sign him on what Trae Young signed for, $200+ million. Now they sign him for a max, and this was a best case scenario. If he could get the max offer, they would be 133 million. So like in my mind, the same guy for $70 million cheaper.
Yep.
Great. But at what risk? And I think that's the part with the whole good partner thing that I'm kind of in today's NBA, where a disgruntled superstar can just mess up your entire chemistry. Kurt, like we've seen this movie. We've seen this movie.
Watching the movie.
Yeah, like would you take that risk as an organization, especially a 64-win team, back-to-back coach of the year? You have a window. Would you take that risk?
Yeah, I see. That's why I think you're betting big on Monty Williams and Chris Paul being able to duct tape this thing together, whatever the chemistry needs to be, for a couple of years, because their window is right now, right? Their window is as long as Chris Paul can play at this level. And well, I want to say 37, like 36, 37, like even though his game isn't completely based on athleticism, there comes a point, right, where it starts to slip. And if he slips at all, there's not a lot of margin for error there.
Yeah, he right now he's signed until 2024, 2025. He'd be 39 years old, right? With a base salary of $30 million a year. Becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2025 at age 40. So you're right, that window, it's like a 2-year window for them, 3-year window.
Yeah, it's a short window, which is why you can't let Ayton walk at the end of the day.
So now I have to bring this to our conversation. Now I have to introduce what might be Chemical X. Kevin Durant. Was this a ploy? Help me understand.
I wish I had a good answer for you on this. It is. I will say this: the talks, just talking to people around, like, it is slowed down. What happened is everybody was in Vegas. Everybody was talking. Everybody was, sweating like you guys are in New York right now.
It's hot. It's hot. Yeah.
Vegas, it was 110 during the day, and you walk out of the building at 10 o'clock at night thinking, oh, it's night. And it's like, no, it's still 90. Like, it's just ridiculous. But everybody left. And for the first time in like 3 years, Corey, there's a vacation. Because of the pandemic and the bubble and the shortened off seasons, there really hasn't been a traditional vacation break window for the NBA for a few years. And guys are taking advantage of that, right? Front office guys are like, I'm gone. After Vegas, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm taking my family to Europe, or where it's stupid hot, or they can go wherever, right? But like, they were wanting to get away. And so with that, everybody's talks have slowed down. And that includes Durant right now, where the Nets haven't seen an offer they liked. But I don't know if that's a ploy to get Kyrie Irving traded like he wants, and if he wants to stay. And the problem is, I think ultimately, the Nets don't know, do they? Like the Nets,
I feel like no one knows. And the fact that, like, especially the past couple of years, the reign of Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn, I'm not even sure, like, if anyone knows.
Well, and it's a challenge because the Nets want to trade Durant first or get that situation settled. If he really just did this to get Kyrie Irving traded, tell the Nets that so that they can move on that. The problem there is, again, the Kyrie Irving thing. I think we've discussed this before. It's well documented. There's one team interested. It's the Lakers, and they've got to move Russell Westbrook, which bringing in a third team, which means the Lakers giving up picks, and it gets messy. I still ultimately think that probably gets done unless Kyrie Irving decides to stay with Brooklyn, which is what he's saying. But there's so many mixed messages. It's so confusing. I don't know that this thing gets resolved anytime soon, right? Like, do you see a resolution?
No, I mean,
yeah,
I want it. My heart says yes, but but my mind says no, and I have to go with my mind on this one. The thing is, it's interesting with this whole 7-Eleven in Brooklyn always open. The idea of, like, to me, it's kind of like you just write it out, and I think it's going to just kind of work itself out in its own, like, it comes to a natural end, because, like, it's a player out for Kyrie. So you're thinking, okay, maybe 1 year left, and then we kind of figure this out. I do think when I saw Kevin Durant request a trade, that was really fascinating to me, because then that kind of introduced me to the headspace of KD, because we've seen him be a vociferous defender of Kyrie, like, all season long, right? He's like, the guy's a master, like, like, I'm not worried about chemistry, like, Kevin Durant kind of protected him all season long. So that's kind of what really piqued my interest. And I think that when I looked at James Harden's comments, I don't know, in Philly, we're going to get to this, but I'm just going to bring it up just briefly to kind of make the point. He's like, I'm at the stage in my career where, like, I'll take less money, give me whatever's left over. I just want to win. That's how bad I want to win. Quite frankly, I feel like as a competitor, that should have been, that's where you are at the beginning. But I understand when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars and, getting your family set for the rest of your life, different priorities at different stages in your life. So we're looking at, like, I think Kevin Durant also entering into that. I just want to win, and we've seen that in his comments. He's like, I just want to win. But is protecting Kyrie the way to do it? And I think right now, it's just kind of, winter's cold. Let's just bundle up for the next year, and hopefully the sun will come out, and we'll be able to do that soon.
I think if you're Kyrie Irving, you had to look at this experience where you kind of tried to find a trade and you asked out and everything that went on, and realize there wasn't a market for you, and you're going to be a free agent in a year. And where is this money coming from? Who is giving you max money? I think wherever he plays, he's got to A, play, and then B, like, really ball out this year. He's got to have a big year and show what he can do to rekindle the market, where people are like, yeah, he can be challenging to us as an organization on some levels, maybe, but it's worth it because look what we get. And by the way, if he does that in Brooklyn, if the Nets roll back with Irving and Durant and Ben Simmons, they're contenders. They've still got Patty Mills. They've got
they're still contenders.
Good team.
I mean, they got talent. I do agree with that. I mean, this is like, it's almost kind of like, fool me once, fool me twice.
Yeah.
That's what I feel about Brooklyn. Like, as soon as we see that roster every year, you and I are like championship contenders. We're right. Yeah. And then we kind of, like, as the season goes on, they kind of, like, slowly fall down our ladder until we're like, this is untenable. What are we thinking? Right. And so to me, I'm a little cautious.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's put it this way, and we'll talk more about my power rankings later. I have the Nets 12th and literally just wrote, I don't know where to put them. I don't know what to do with them. That could be way too low or way too high. I don't know.
Let's go to Los Angeles. You mentioned that they might be a destination for Kyrie. What's really interesting is the tune, the melody coming out of LA. It has changed dramatically. Let's just look at the past year and a half, shall we? This is a quick little history of the melody. Carmelo, Russell Westbrook joining LeBron, one of the oldest rosters in the NBA, but just laden with all-stars. The return of Dwight Howard. We're like, this is a super team. It's like Space Jam. What's going to happen? It's just immediately they're going to win the championship. Everyone's excited about it. Then all the blame goes to Russell Westbrook and Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel's out. Russell Westbrook getting threats, like, by people. And then now we see a new head coach who has been very vocal about his support for Russell Westbrook. All the while, the only team interested in Kyrie Irving is Los Angeles. But like you said, they might actually get rid of Russell Westbrook. How do we make sense of this, Kurt?
I don't know. And it's got to start with Westbrook. Look, what gets interesting for me with Westbrook is Darvin Ham is saying, hey, I need buy-in from him, right? I need him to defend. We are going to be a defensive first team. And he's all but said, look, he's got to cut off the ball. He's got to set picks for LeBron. He's got to do play within the system that we're going to set up. things that he did not do. Like Frank Vogel, everybody knows this. Like this isn't some great secret. Frank Vogel wanted him to do it. He just wasn't doing it. And Vogel couldn't bring him off the bench because he feared he would lose him. Like as just that would do it. It would mentally be too far gone. Ham is saying all those things. Is Westbrook going to do them? And he fired his agent this week. And his agent, Todd Futcher, who had been his agent since he entered the league with Wasserman, put out a rather extraordinary statement.
Yeah, that statement was really interesting.
Yeah, where he basically said, we disagree on what's next for Russell Westbrook. I've told him he needs to buy in to what Darvin Ham is selling and have a big year. Because, again, much like Kyrie Irving, he's up for another contract. And how much money is out there? What's the market for Westbrook? And Westbrook fired him. And it reads as a sign that he doesn't want to accept that role, that he still believes he's a number one option, that he is still MVP level Russell Westbrook. And if that's the case, it really doesn't matter what LeBron and AD and Westbrook say on a phone call. By the way, phone call, it's 2022. Did they not FaceTime?
But you mentioned that contract, and this is that agent statement.
Yeah.
First of all, astonished me.
Yes,
I was just like, what? And then let's look at the actual contract itself, right? So remember, he was with OKC, and it was a 5-year, $206 million contract, right?
Right.
The very next year, Houston. The very next year, Washington. Then the very next year, the Lakers. So you're looking at 4 teams in 4 years. And then coming into this season, there's a question: would it be 5 teams? Think about on a max deal, 5 teams in 5 years on a max deal. That would have been this is the key thing that I think players need to understand, because we're in a moment of unprecedented player movement, which I think is great. But there also is this element of how do you, and you address it, how do you reset your value? And the answer is you don't. It's very hard to reset your value when you're making $47 million a year and you're a role player, right? And then no team is like, okay, well, what's the market for me? And if I'm not willing to accept that role and no one's willing to pay me max money, then what happens? The answer is, and we saw this with Blake Griffin in Brooklyn, the answer is you try to join a team that is a championship contender on a veteran minimum. Or what John Wall's doing with, you're on a mid-level taxpayer exception, and then after that, your value is now set at veteran league minimums for the rest of your career.
And once you're there, it is so hard to get out of that, right? Once you're seen as that, and you're not, and I think that's the concern. If he gets bought out, if Westbrook gets traded to, hypothetically, Brooklyn, your Spurs get mentioned because they've got the cap space, but they would absorb him and buy him out. He would sign somewhere for the league minimum, but once you're a league minimum guy, it's hard to get. You have to really have a good season to get money again.
And it's like we're talking about a guy who just signed a contract for $200 million. So it's not like he needs money, but it's this idea of I want to be paid commensurate, with the value that I believe I bring. And this is one of those things that, in Deandre Ayton's dealing with this at the very beginning of his career with this restricted free agency, but this idea of well, I'm a former MVP, or I'm a former number 1 overall draft pick. I'm not a role player. I don't come off the bench. That concept is very hard for guys to how do you go from imagine any other profession, you go from making C-suite level money to the very next year a minimum wage or intern. It's just the ego is very hard, and then the people around you, it's well, why aren't you getting paid CEO money? Aren't you a C-suite level executive? It's why are you getting paid the same as these interns? They're not all-stars, they're not all NBAs, they're not and it's very difficult, the mental aspect of that, to be humbled like that. And I think this idea of desire without restraint, Kurt, is just really fascinating to me, because we see this all the time. It's not working in my place. I've signed, 2 years into a deal, I request a trade. You force a trade, but at what cost? Short-term, long-term, and it never works out.
It's a sticky situation, and I'm not sure. Look, the Lakers as an organization realize that if they run it back with Westbrook and everybody's on the same page, and the biggest key for their season remains Anthony Davis and him being healthy and make a shot. But even if all that goes right, as constructed, they are not a contender. They're not. They're not in the mix. They are not a threat to the Suns, the Clippers, whoever else you want to put at the top of the West. Like they're not there. So I think that's where the Kyrie thing comes in, because Kyrie's just an upgrade over Westbrook, and so there's a chance, but it's a lot of things have to go right in LA.
The thing that I think is really interesting is this idea of like LeBron doing the Drew League, because we know that LeBron is a master marketer.
Yeah.
And we know everything's happening around LA. Like people are asking, like, can they win? You know, like what's going to happen? Like, is LeBron still the player? By the way, he's coming off of an unbelievable season, right? So it's kind of like, I think that was a little bit of the message to the world and to the media. It's like, hey, I can still drop 40 whenever I want to, you know, like people come still play with me. You know, I think there's always an element of recruiting and marketing there that we can't. I don't feel like LeBron just does things without, premeditating them.
No, he actually, that's a very astute point, and he doesn't. He's been in the spotlight since he was in high school, and he knows how to use it.
Yeah, so the player GM era, I'm telling you, it has me scratching my head. Kurt, I'm telling you, eating this pizza, looking at Van Gogh, scratching my head, thinking, what in the world are we get ourselves into? So James Harden, this one is this is another head scratcher. It seems as though he's reached that level of maturity in his career, and I don't mean that in any sort of disrespectful way, but it's just like the lifespan of a career. Generally speaking, you reach a point where you made enough money. What do you want to do now that you're like, it's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like, I'm good, my family's good, I'm not hungry anymore. What do I want to do? The answer is win a championship. So he told Daryl Morey, he quoted this. He's like, get who you need to get. We had a conversation. Get whoever you need to get, and then just pay me whatever is left over.
Yeah.
What did you think about that mindset shift for James?
First off, credit Daryl Morey for doing it right? Like, he got this money. So who did he go out and get? He got PJ Tucker, proven playoff guy, corner three, can defend multiple positions, gives them options. Daniel House, another great fit. Trades for DeAnthony Melton. Like, here's what I came to out of this. They used that money really well. Harden's going to take $32 million, give or he's going to end up with this deal. I'm curious if it's a 1+1 and then he gets a bigger. They re-sign him in a year. This was a nod and wink type of thing, and then they give him bigger money in a year. But I also think this: Harden put pressure on himself by doing this, in the sense that this team now has the pieces to contend. I mean, it's going to be tough in an East with Boston, who got better, Milwaukee, who will be healthy, but this is a team that's right there. And when you get deep into the playoffs, the role players are there on this team now, with Maxey, with everybody else they've got. It's going to be on Embiid, who has had huge playoff games, and I kind of believe in, but he's got to stay healthy, but I believe in. And then it comes down to Harden. Harden has not had great playoff games under pressure. There's a long history of playoff struggles for James Harden. It's on him now. Like, he is the number 2 player on a playoff team, and he may be in more of a facilitation role than he was. He's not going to have to score like he did in Houston, but it's on him. He is going to have to step up and play in the playoffs at a high level if this team is going to contend with the likes of Boston, Milwaukee.
But he's been to the finals with that OKC team, Kevin Durant.
That was different, though. I think, again, he was 6 man.
That's a good point. Yeah, with this team though, you look at you got guys like you mentioned it, Tybal, PJ Tucker, that addition, Daniel House, Tobias Harris. What are your thoughts on Harris?
I like Tobias Harris, by the way. Fantastic in Hustle. I thought he was great. By the way, it was a surprisingly good movie. That's a topic for another day, but I enjoyed that more than I expected. I think he's a good player, but he's a little maybe overpaid for what he is. He's a number 3 option?
And he's making $36 million a year.
He's getting overpaid for what he is. He's probably, honestly, on this team Joel Embiid is option number 1. Then it's Harden. Probably Maxey before. I mean, is it Maxey or Harris? That might be a matchup dependent thing. But he's the 3rd or 4th option. He's just kind of overpaid for what he is, but he's solid in what he does. He plays hard on both ends. He doesn't beat you. He doesn't make mistakes. Not a bad player. I think the concern with him is simply you're paying him $15 million more than you probably should.
Yeah, I think when we look at that roster, the thing that stands out to me is, who's your veteran? Like as far as like, really great veteran guy with championship DNA experience, they had Danny Green, right? That was like the one guy that they kind of leaned on, and now is PJ Tucker now your veteran guy because he won with the Bucks? I don't know if he fits that role for them. So that's kind of when I'm looking at this roster, I'm like, well, like who's going to show the way? There always needs to be someone to show the way, especially in Philly, because we know that they go as their leader goes, and their leader's been Embiid. And what we've seen is flashes of brilliance and inconsistency, which makes sense because that has been Embiid's career to this point, and he's super young and he has a ton of talent. But the fact of the matter is that has been what we've seen, and it makes sense that the team follows. So someone needs to be there to show the way. And I thought Doc Rivers would be able to do that alone, but you need the veteran presence in the locker room.
You've been in this. Does leadership, can it really come top down from a coach, or at some point does there need to be a locker room?
No, yeah, for sure. No, you need your. I believe you need that franchise player to be what I would call a servant leader, and what I mean by that is the comments that Harden and Durant are making are like the comments that Steph Curry was making years ago. See what I'm saying? And like Tim Duncan made years ago. Like, it's like it's not about you. It should never be about your like, how much money can I make, or my deals, or my brand, or what's best for me in my career. It's never been about that. Like I always go back to like who is the DNA of championship winning in basketball? The correct answer is Bill Russell, right? So like when Bill Russell was a rookie, I love this interview. Like I reference it so much because it's true, and it's a treasure trove. It's like a PhD in championships. He's talking to Red Auerbach, and like their conversation is basically like, Red, like I want to win. So that is the only thing that matters to me. Whatever role you need me to take. If Kuzi's the top guy, I'm fine with that. If I'm the top guy, I'm fine with that. Like whatever you need me to do. If you need me to rebound, if you need me to score, like I want to win championships. He came in as a rookie, day one, with that mentality. And we don't see that in today's NBA. It's more like, what can I make? And then after like 10 years, it's like, now I want to be a team player.
No, I think that's true. There's the exceptions to that rule. Like you mentioned, Curry, like he's got rings because of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that I think the servant leadership is so interesting, is because when you put other people in the team ahead of you, and you have support from the head coach and from ownership and from the GM, who then give you the pieces around you, you make everybody money. And that's what we saw with Curry and the Warriors. It's like Draymond Green's career, like you look Klay Thompson's career, Wiggins, like he was one of those guys who was going to go on that max route, get bought out, and then now he just has a renaissance. He's reestablished his value because of playing next to Steph Curry on that team. Like when you go that way, you're like a keystone species. Everything around you flourishes. So that's what I mean is like, and that's just, as you mentioned, there are exceptions for a reason. There's like, how many Tim Duncans are there? How many Steph Currys are there? How many Bill Russells are there? Like you can count them on one hand because they're so rare. So I don't expect every team to have that. But the fact of the matter in Philadelphia, that's what they need. They need Joel to become that. And he can become that. He's like 28, right? Like how old is he? 27?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, he can become that. But that's the shift, I think. And then to do that, you need someone to teach you.
Yeah, and Tucker might be that guy. He is certainly the established vet, been around, right, and has won a lot. So and has a ring. So
okay, next up in Utah. So we're looking at this Utah Jazz scenario. It's a little bit of I feel like we're in a theme park. I have no idea what to expect. It's just thrill and suspense. What would you ask for Donovan Mitchell in a trade scenario?
Well, and this is interesting because Utah's previous trade sets the benchmark, doesn't it? They got 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, plus the number 22 guy in this draft. 3 of those picks are unprotected. That's the baseline now, isn't it? And it frankly is part of the problem with Kevin Durant, the challenge in trading Kevin Durant, which is, well, Kevin Durant's a better player than Rudy Gobert, so we should get more, but more's not really out there on the market for Kevin Durant right now, in part because teams are concerned he might just leave. Like he's not happy in Brooklyn. Can we make him happy? Mitchell is everybody likes Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's great in the community. He's a genuinely good person. I think he'll keep his connections and be active in Utah long after he's gone. Like he's that kind of guy. They want picks. I think the baseline is going to be, and I've heard this, and I know Tony Jones from The Athletic has talked about this. The baseline's 5. We got 5 for Rudy. You got to give us 5. And by the way, we would like, who do you take? Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, who looked fantastic at Summer League, Emmanuel Quickly. Like, what should their young players come to? And I think that's where the negotiations are. I don't see Tyler Hero going there because for the same reason RJ Barrett probably doesn't go, which is Utah's rebuilding, and you're going to have to pay Hero or RJ Barrett a lot of money. Like, they're up for their new contracts off their rookie deals. They're about to make a ton of money. That's not where Utah is. Like, those are great players, but that's not, like, they're not necessarily on the timeline financially that they want. These other guys are a little younger on different deals. Like, I think ultimately they get it done, but much like the Durant thing and everybody being on vacation we were talking about earlier, it's that I've heard the talks have just slowed way down. Like, nobody's talking about much of anything right now.
Yeah, it's one of those like all of a sudden things where it's like we're waiting, and then all of a sudden we're going to see blockbuster trade. It kind of reminds me of Kyrie Irving. Remember when he left Cleveland? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
This is a different scenario, but it just kind of reminds me of like what the asking price for him. And remember, LeBron was the guy in Cleveland. This is a different scenario because Donovan Mitchell is the guy. But when Kyrie left, the Boston Celtics gave up Isaiah Thomas. Remember, at the time was like the face of the franchise, and was balling out. So to me, that's kind of like I'm with you. I think at the very least, the place that Utah is in, you're gonna have to ask for whoever the face of your franchise is, plus a couple players, plus a couple first round picks, and that's a steep asking price. That's a very steep asking price.
Yeah, it is. By the way, the other interesting thing in this, people can forget, if you're Utah, you kind of want to move on from Donovan Mitchell because your best asset going into next year, where with Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson stuff, there's potential franchise guys, it looks like, at the top of the next draft. Your best asset is your own pick. They still control their own first round pick. And if they trade Mitchell, and this is a rebuilding process and they're going to lose a lot of games, that's going to be, they're in the mix, right? The lottery odds are flat, but probably a top 5, top 6 pick, and get that asset may be more valuable as a rebuilding block than anything they get in the trade, right? Like, their own pick may be the most valuable one.
So what exactly are your power rankings for this upcoming season?
It feels like it's in flux because of everything we've been talking about, but Golden State starts on top, right? Because the champions get to start on top, barring, Mark Cuban blowing up the Mavericks back in 2010. Back then. Boston second, who I think had a fantastic offseason.
Yeah, amazing.
I think that they got smart moves. They got better. Milwaukee third, because I thought they were maybe the best team, second best in the league last year. Certainly third, and they get Chris Middleton back and healthy. Didn't really make a lot of changes. I have the Clippers fourth.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
I'm really high on them. I'm betting on Kawhi Leonard's knees. Like, if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are healthy, that is they've rounded out that roster beautifully, right? Like, they want to go big, we can play with Zubats. You want to go small, we can play Marcus Morris at the 5 and Kawhi at the 4 and Paul George at the 3. And we've got shooters in Kennard, and they've got Beverly to go out and get John Wall to help run the point. Like, Robert Covington is there. You can go on and on down the list. This is a deep, versatile roster. If Kawhi is back to being Kawhi, I genuinely believe this team has a shot to win it all, which is
and their owner. I mean, they're willing to spend too.
Yeah, yes. They will have a bigger tax. They are set as currently constructed. They would actually have a bigger tax bill than the Warriors, who set the record last year. They would have a slightly bigger tax bill, to which I believe Steve Ballmer's reaction is, "Meh."
Who's fifth?
Oh, I'm sorry. After that comes Memphis, taking a step forward. Do you think, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Number 6, Philadelphia, who we talked about. I think had a really good offseason. We talked about with House and Tucker and stuff. We were just talking about them. At 7, I have at Phoenix. They're still going to be very good. They won the most games last year. This might be a little low for them, but how happy is Deandre Ayton? Really? Can they smooth everything over? Does Chris Paul keep playing at the level? Do they stay healthy? I think a lot of things went right for them to win 64 games. I'm not sure that they're capable of doing that again, but they're certainly 7th might be too low. And I kind of feel the same way about Miami at 8. Like,
Yeah.
they really the East last year. They run everybody back. They could be better. Tyler Hero could take a step forward. This might be a little low for them. They do lose PJ Tucker, but I think that they're going to be very good. It almost feels like a disappointing offseason for Miami, doesn't it? Because
after last year when they got Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, they didn't land Durant. They haven't landed Durant yet. They haven't landed Mitchell. They've been in the mix for those. If they don't get those guys, it weirdly feels disappointing, even though they're going to run back to the top of the East. So they're going to be very good. Whether they can really compete with Boston, Milwaukee remains to be seen. I have Denver healthy, Murray, Michael Porter Jr., obviously Jokic, good role players around them. I think that they are capable of getting in the mix in the West. And number 10, Minnesota.
Wow.
I think didn't they get better? I mean, they got Rudy Gobert. They actually add Kyle Anderson. They got good role players around there. Brent Forbes, I think, is there. Like, they add good role players and veterans and some defense around Karl Anthony Towns, who they extended. Ant should take it. Ant, by the way, looks good. Talk about guys who look good and hustle. He's ready to take a step forward. Like, I think that I'm not sure that they're built for the playoffs, but I think they're going to win a lot of regular season games, Corey.
I think. What about didn't the Bulls re-sign Levine? You don't think they're close, or like the Cleveland Cavaliers? None of those other teams in the East pique your interest?
Cavaliers, I might have too low. I have the Bulls and Cavaliers kind of in the mid-teens. Did the Bulls take a step forward? I think the thing is they were, and again, maybe I'm sleeping on them because I'm thinking of the second half of the year. The first half of the season, when Lonzo Ball was healthy and Alex Caruso was healthy, their defense was good, right? Like, they were disruptive. They caused problems. They were tied into February. I'm close to the All-Star break. They were tied for first or in first place. Like, they were in the East. Like, they had a great season. And they did it without Patrick Williams, right? Yeah. Who I think if he's healthy, he could be a real force and a factor for them. So I might be sleeping on them. Cleveland could be taking a step forward too. But that's kind of where I've got it now. Like, I feel like there are a lot of teams, and Denver's in there, Minnesota's in there. There's a lot of good teams with some questions that I'm really curious to see how it shakes out when the games start getting played.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me is Dallas. Where's Dallas? I feel like, to me, I would put Dallas over Minnesota. And then the other one that I would be like a little interesting to me, I was surprised, not in the top 10, but I always want to mention healthy Zion, CJ McCollum. New Orleans is looking interesting. Not top 10, but intriguing. But to me, Dallas not making the list is shocking.
They're one of those teams that could very well be top 10 if everything comes together for them. And we talked about the importance of leadership. How much does CJ McCollum mean to that team? How does having that guy in front of them? I think it's a huge plus. I think they're there. I think with Dallas, I have them 11th, but I think this is where losing Brunson hurts. Like, I think they'll be good in the regular season because Luka and 5 out, and like, they know who they are. They know what they want to do. They have an MVP level player, but I think not having Brunson ultimately hurts them a little, especially if Luka has to miss, sprains a finger and misses a week and a half or something.
Yeah, well, look, anytime I get a chance to hear what you think about, the power rankings, it's always a great pleasure for me because I'm sitting here, I'm going to be back eating that pizza, back at the museum, going through your list and thinking through it.
Yeah, it's so much this year, point of the year, it's so much opinion on what could be and how many questions there are because, eventually there'll be data. Eventually there'll be wins and losses and actual information. But right now it's kind of like a mix of how good do I think they are and how is their offseason.
One of the most exciting things this summer is Summer League. I know some teams balled out. Portland won the championship, got rings. Well, by the way, what was your take on that? The whole ring ceremony on Summer League.
That was a little strange. I'm like, it's kind of a dubious honor, isn't it? Like, it's, hey, our guys on the bench from 11 through 13 are better than yours. Like,
Well, I thought it was interesting because, I think when you look at, I'll never forget a conversation I had with a minor league baseball player one time on a plane. and he was like in his late 20s, so let's say like 27, 28 for the sake of our conversation. And he was telling me, how hard it was, that lifestyle. You have a wife and two small kids, and you're holding on to a dream, and the difference for you might be politics. Somebody got drafted higher than you, and that's their guy. And you believe you're good enough, but you're like right there. And then after like 1 year, do you give up? Do you give up after 5 years? Do you give up after 10 years? Like, when is the time to give up on a dream? And I was like, this is a really heavy conversation for a plane ride. I just met you, but but it was really interesting because I think that's the summer league conversation. Like, Paul, how many games is Banchero going to play? The answer is like 2. Like, everyone knows how good he is. Everyone knows how good Chet Holmgren is, and Jabari Smith, all these guys. It's an opportunity for everybody else to get the chance, to live out their dreams. So the fact of the matter is, this might be the only championship they win at a professional stage. So I'm cool with the ring ceremony. I thought that was a really cool touch to it because of the vast majority of players who this might be it for them. They may never even make a roster on the NBA.
Now, they might know what the real business of Summer League is in a lot of ways, and people don't realize it. You've got a couple guys who are on every team, ballpark, who will be on an NBA roster, maybe a two-way. A handful of guys will play in the G League. Most of these guys will be playing in Europe. This place is loaded with European scouts who are there to get the best player on. The guy who's not impressing us as an NBA talent is going to be the best player on his team in Turkey, right? Or Greece or wherever. And these scouts are there finding these guys. And, hey, we need an elite center or a wing or whatever they need. And they go get where they spend their money. And that's a lot of the business of Summer League. And if you talk to those players, you'll hear them sitting around going, have you played in Belgium? Like, what's it like? What's the experience? Like trying to get a sense of these teams and their agents too. So it's kind of fascinating. And by the way, Banchero looked great. You're right, Holmgren looked great. Keegan Murray looked really good for this game. Like, that guy he could win Rookie of the Year like good. Like, he's going to fit right.
What do you think about the light stuff? Like Richard Jefferson, wasn't he a referee for a game?
I love that. I think more analysts, I'm not sure I should do this, but I think more analysts, Corey should do this, not me, but more analysts should go through that because I think it would give us a different perspective. Like, it's easy for us to sit there and go, how did they miss that call? Or how did you, to think it's obvious when it's never really obvious. These block charge calls or what too much bodying of a guy in the, like, where are these lines? I think putting someone in that position gives them a different perspective, right? Like, anytime you can walk a mile in someone else's shoes, it will give you that better perspective.
And I think it would also give you an edge up in your analyst game because you think about, Kobe Bryant was reading the referee playbook, wasn't he? And saying, I know that they won't see me holding here because they have to be here, here, and here on the floor when the ball's in this position. So it's like stuff like that. It's really, it's fascinating to me, kind of understanding the requirements of someone else's job. It reminds me of I met this one hotel director, and he's like, the only way you become a managing director at a hotel is if you work through every single. You work in the kitchen, you work the front desk, you work laundry, so you understand what are the asks that I can actually request. This is not feasible because you would know that if you had worked the front desk, and I thought that's a really interesting aspect of leadership. Great point. We also saw Myles Garrett warming up with the Cavs. So that also brings up to our mind. Our super producer Dan asked, well, if you had a starting five across all different sports, who'd be good for a summer league team or an NBA team? Who are you going with? So I have my list. I want to hear what you got.
But let me hear your list because I think you put real thought into this. You came up with a really interesting list.
Yeah. So I think my point guard would be Roy McIlroy. I just feel like he'd be one. He's a basketball fan, so that's a good start. Two, he was quoted one time saying that he idolized Kobe Bryant. So I feel like, okay, that's great. So he loves the game. He's a Lakers fan. And I feel like there's that Steve Nash. He grew up playing soccer. So I feel like there's a little bit of Steve Nash, a lot of basketball players play golf. Why don't golf players play? It's maybe Rory. Then I go straight height, I have to go Darren Waller. I have to go Jimmy Graham. I need 6'6", 6'7" tight ends on my team. I go for my center, John Isner. Yeah, and I think the last player on my team is a swimmer. I was going to go Michael Phelps, but I decided to go Caleb Dressel.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I'm good. That brings my average age down, I think, to like 32, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's still like that's like the Lakers roster. I'm kind of nervous, a little older team, but that's kind of my starting five.
I'm not worried about Dressel's conditioning. Like,
I know. Yeah, so that's kind of where I went with it.
the other guys I point guard just because I'm in LA. I'm fascinated by him as an athlete. I think Aaron Donald would be fascinating. Like, I want to see him fight through. Try to set a pick that he's not going to fight through, right? Like, he's just going to destroy people. And then the other couple I was thinking like you. I went with Aaron Judge, Yankees slugger, 6'7". Probably played a little. And I went NHL because I do love my hockey when I get and I miss getting to watch it because it kind of overlaps with the job. But Tadeo Chara, longtime NHL journeyman, is 6'9" bruiser. Like he's my guy in the middle. I'm going to put him in the middle, and he's just going to be a force.
You can be like a 1990s basketball team.
Exactly. Pat Riley would love my team, man.
For more information on what we got coming up for you and all the stuff that Kurt's team's working on, we got to go to NBCSports.com/NBA. Kurt, I cannot wait until the next time we talk story on PBT Extra.
I've always loved it. Thanks, Corey.